Well, hello everybody. Jeff Cowan here from Jeff Cowan's Pro Talk. You know, the guy that's trained more successful service advisors than anybody else on the planet. It's a fact. Check it out. I'm back here today with a new edition of my podcast entitled Right Service, Write Your Own Paycheck, the path to making well over $100,000 a year when writing service in the automotive industry. And at this very recording, just over 20% of you are doing just that. You're making $100,000 a year or more. But that means that nearly 80% of you are not. So what are you, if you're one of those 80%, what are you going to do about that? Well, here's what I recommend you do. Watch this podcast. Go back and watch any of the over 100 podcasts I've recorded in the past. Go to my website, automotiveservicetraining.com, automotiveservicetraining.com, and between those two places alone, you'll find all the techniques, processes, word tracks, tactics, everything you need to become the absolute best that you can be. And I just want to tell you, when we're talking about the money there, I've just done a whole series of workshops where I had a lot of advisors showing up that were making $120,000, $150,000, $170,000, $180,000 coming to the workshops, making that kind of money already, but still wanting to be even better. So that money's real and it's out there, and you can have it too if you're willing to work to get it. Well, today, like I said, I'm back with a new edition of my podcast, and we're going to do what we've been doing and talk about a quote. I'm going to break this quote down and show you how you can use it in your daily life and your daily professional life to help you become, again, the best you can be. This quote simply says this: some of the best food I've ever eaten was a side dish that I didn't order. Some of the best food that I've ever eaten was a side dish that I didn't order. Now, what do I mean by that? You know, I'm kind of a picky eater, very finicky eater, as a matter of fact, and there's been many times I've gone out to dinner with other couples and other people, and they'll order something that I didn't really want, you know, but I didn't say anything. If they want it, they can get it. But I tasted it, and after tasting it, I found it became one of my favorite dishes of all time. Same thing with appetizers. I've been out with plenty of people, and they'll order something I just didn't think I'd ever see myself eating. They would get it, I'd try it, became my favorite appetizer of all time. So how does this apply to you in business? Well, what we're really talking about here is simply thinking outside the box, doing something different. And the more you can think outside the box in business, many times you'll find it will give you that much more of an edge than some of the people you compete against, whether they're internally or external competitors. So how do you think outside the box? Number one, look outside your industry. Look outside your industry. Now, taking training as an example, you know, there's so many people out there that just really, they kind of box themselves in because they won't go to a training class unless it's taught by somebody who's done the job before. They won't read a book about salesmanship or leadership or management unless it's written by somebody who's done the job in their industry before. And that's good because, you know, if somebody's walked in the shoes before, then they've probably got a path that's successful and you can learn a lot from it. But if you just make it that narrow, you could be leaving on the table a whole lot of information that could help you out and put you several steps ahead of your competitors. Now, what do I mean? Well, I can tell you this. One of the best selling classes I ever went to was how to sell insurance. Now, here's what's funny about this. I never wanted to get my license for selling insurance, was never interested in selling insurance, but a very good friend of mine was a very, very good, and still is a very good insurance salesman. He knew that I'm in the business that I'm in, and he said, look, I'm going to a workshop the next couple of days. There's a guy coming in that's really, really good at what he does teaching this class. If you want to sit in, I'm sure I can get you in. And I took him up on his offer. And I got to tell you, even though they didn't talk anything about the automotive industry, the techniques and the tactics and the processes they had, I found were easily applicable to what I was doing. And it was different. Nobody else was doing it. And it put me several steps ahead and made me that much more successful. So think outside your industry. Number two, very similar. Look outside your brand. Just because you're a Ford store, for example, doesn't mean that Chevrolet, Volkswagen, Mercedes, BMW, Chrysler might not have a better idea or better way of doing something. And you know, back in the day, this has been proven out, by the way, because back in the day when I first started out here, doing training, most car dealers were a Chevy dealer, or they were a Ford dealer, or they were a single point dealer that had one brand. But over the last 36 years, it's become very common for car dealers to not only own one franchise, but to own 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 different ones. And I think it's been great for the dealers, I think it's been great for their business, and I think it's been great for the business overall, because if I can see what this manufacturer's doing and that manufacturer's doing, I can take the best practices from each one, put them together, and have one heck of a business. So don't be afraid to look outside your brand. And then finally, don't be afraid to look outside of training. I mean, don't don't be afraid to look for other ways to get it. Now, here's what I mean by that. I've read literally hundreds, if not thousands, of selling books, management books, leadership books, and the like. I just love to read them, and some of them I've read many, many times. If you're like me and you've done that, you start to realize that, when it comes to selling books, for example, there's only so many different ways you can ask somebody to buy something, so after a while they all kind of start to sound a little bit repetitive. And I'm not saying don't read them, but I'm saying broaden your scope here. So what do I mean? There's other ways to get training versus listening to a podcast or reading a book or going to a workshop, something like that. For example, you can watch television. You can watch television. I mean, I don't know if you've heard of the show before. I'm sure you have. It's a massive hit. The show Pawn Stars, that stars Rick Harris. It's about the pawn shop that's over in Las Vegas, Nevada. I mean, if you want to learn how to negotiate, that guy is a master negotiator. By the way, he's got a biography out in the chapter that he wrote about negotiation. It's the best on negotiation I've ever seen. But if you just watch that show, you will not only learn how to negotiate, but you will learn how to read the people's body languages, their facial expressions, which will teach you and show you when somebody's ready to say yes, somebody's ready to say no, and somebody's ready to walk. Another show, American Pickers, will teach you how to sell. And getting away from television. Let's go back to books. I think it's very well known at this point, if you watch my podcast, that I study presidential history as a hobby. And one of the reasons I do is you want to talk about master salespeople. To become the President of the United States of America, you have to be a master salesperson. You want to learn how to lead and how to manage and how to make decisions. Read military. I mean, military, they will show you when you read those books what decisions they have to make, what decisions they make, and what the ramifications are, and it's very applicable to what you're doing in your business, whether you're selling, you're managing, running a business, own a business, and the like. So again, some of the best side dishes I've ever had was stuff that I didn't even order myself, and so I've become a person who's gotten into the habit of thinking outside the box. I encourage you to do the same thing. Look outside your industry, look outside your brand, and look for different ways to train. Take a look at everything. Hey, my name is Jeff Cowan. I have a company called Jeff Cowan's Pro Talk. I appreciate you watching today. Just want to remind you that we are a training company. We have all kinds of training. If you're in the automotive service industry, we can train anybody just about any way you want. Got a lot of workshops I'm out there doing, a lot of people showing up. If you're tired of being mediocre, come to one of my workshops and I will make you an all-star. So with that, and by the way, the way you reach us is 1-800-248-2931, 1-800-248-2931, or simply go to automotiveservicetraining.com, automotiveservicetraining.com. You can get all the information that you want about us right there. Again, this is Jeff Cowan signing off, wishing you a great week. God bless you, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.